All right, let's get into it. Today, we're tackling a problem that is super common, incredibly frustrating, and yet most of us don't really know why it happens. Why the doctor your insurance company's website says is covered often isn't.
I mean, you've been there, right? You do your research. You find a doctor in your health plan's directory. You call up the office all ready to go, only for them to tell you, oh, sorry, we don't take that insurance, or that doctor hasn't worked here for years. What you've just run into is a digital ghost.
Yeah, there's actually a name for this whole mess. A ghost network. It's a directory that looks completely legit, but it's haunted by old, wrong information, and it makes it, almost impossible to find the care you're literally paying for. So let's pull back the curtain and see what's really going on.
Okay, first up, let's talk about the tech, or maybe the lack of good tech. At its core, this whole thing is just a massive, messy data problem. It's what some people are calling a directory fog. And honestly, that's a perfect description for the confusion it causes.
So, get this. It's wild how something as normal as a business merger can just completely break the system. Picture it. Two big healthcare companies join forces. Now they have to combine their totally separate, ancient computer systems. Instead of a slick, automated process, they end up using these manual data maps. They call them crosswalks. Basically, it's a person trying to connect the dots between two totally different systems. And you can imagine how well that goes. They get out of date almost immediately, and boom, your directory is suddenly a ghost town.
And here's the bottom line. These clashing systems with all their different ID numbers just create total chaos. Imagine trying to get around a city you've never been to. But instead of Google Maps, you're using a crumpled old map your friend drew by hand 5 years ago with a bunch of addresses crossed out. You're going to get lost. That's exactly what's happening here with our healthcare data.
And this slide, wow, it just lays it all out plain and simple. On one side, you've got the tangled mess we're in now. Data stuck in silos, manual updates, old information everywhere. And on the other, you've got the dream system. Everything integrated, updates happening automatically, and information that's actually correct in real time. It's the difference between pulling your hair out and just getting things done.
All right, let's move on. Now you'd think there'd be rules to prevent this, right? Well, ironically, one of the key regulations on the books is actually making the whole thing worse.
30 days. That's how long health plans have to update their provider info, according to current CMS rules. Just once a month.
And I mean, you can probably guess what the experts say about this. In a world where doctors move, practices are sold, and companies merge all the time, 30 days? That's practically an eternity. This slow-motion update cycle just can't keep up with the real world. And the fallout from this delay? It's huge. What happens is this thing called the January reset. It's like this massive stress test for the whole system right after everyone has signed up for their new plans for the year. Think about that. The directory is at its absolute worst, it's most broken and out of date, at the one time a year when millions of us need it to be perfect. It's insane.
Okay, that all sounds pretty bad, I know. But there is a way out of this mess. So let's talk about the solutions, about the new digital blueprint that could finally clear away this fog for good.
So here's the big idea. We've got to move from the old way, these 30-day batches and broken links, to something called an event-driven architecture. The best way to think about it is this. Right now, it's like getting a monthly newsletter that's already out of date by the time it hits your mailbox. The new way, it's like getting a text message the second your doctor's information changes. It's real time. And this is all done using APIs, which are basically just secure tunnels that let all these different computer systems talk to each other automatically.
And the end game here, the big prize, is something called a National Directory of Healthcare, the NDH. The idea is to have one single, trustworthy source for all this information, managed at the federal level. No more hundreds of different broken lists, just one source of truth we can all rely on.
But, and this is a really big but, just having cool tech isn't enough. We all saw it happen with the initial launch of Healthcare.gov, right? It's a classic example. A great idea can totally fall flat if it's not managed well. So, for this to actually work, you need smart people in charge, you need to test the heck out of it, and you have to be willing to actually finally modernize these ancient government computer systems.
Okay, so we've got a blueprint. We know how to fix the tech. But that's really only half the story. For this last part, I want to zoom way out, because this is about so much more than just bad data. When a system is this confusing, this broken, it's not just a technical failure. It's a human failure. It raises a huge question. Who are we building these digital services for?
So let's talk about web accessibility. The World Wide Web Consortium, the people who help set the standards for the internet, they define it like this.
And when we build something like a doctor directory that's a total mess, we are completely failing at this. We're breaking that fundamental promise of the web.
And who pays the price when we design things so poorly? Well, it's usually the people who need the most help. The elderly, folks with lower incomes who might only have a smartphone to get online, and people with disabilities who really depend on technology being designed thoughtfully. This isn't just an annoyance for them. A bad directory can be a literal wall blocking them from getting the healthcare they need.
And this brings us to what might be the most important point of this whole conversation. See, when you build a system that works for someone who might be struggling, when you make it simple, clear, and accurate, you don't just help that one person. You actually end up making a better, smarter, and just plain more human system for absolutely everyone.
So it leaves us with this one big question. Are we actually building our digital world for everyone, or just for the lucky few who can navigate the chaos? Because fixing these ghost networks, it's not just a tech problem. It's a test of whether we really believe that everyone deserves equal access to the tools they need to live a healthy life.